City Attorney.
Yeah, I think where we last left off, I had started at the league. The league could answer our questions. Nothing was clear in the statute on redistricting. They referred me to the municipal boundary adjustments. Contacted a gal there. She referred me back to the league, said she could answer it. I went back to the league. The league then said, well, we can't answer it. You need to go to the Secretary of State. They'll answer it. I got a hold of the Secretary of State. One guy referred me to another guy. That guy did some checking, called me back and said, yeah, we can't answer that. Go back to the league. So, I mean, the bottom line is there's nothing that any of these entities are identifying that says we have to, that this is a huge problem, that it needs to be addressed, that we have to redistrict. The other concern that the Secretary of State individual pointed out is if you do it now, you're going to bump your county's precincts. So there's going to be a major disruption if you choose to do it now. They didn't have an answer on can we, should we, but they did not. None of these entities told me, yes, you have to, because you've annexed in. The only thing the statute addresses is redistricting as a result of the census. So that's the answer we got. I think given the fact that we're going to trigger county precinct problems, when I talked with Dan, I think the thought was, why are we going to open this can of worms now? Why don't we look at it when we have fresh census data? We're going to need to do it then. I don't think there's any ifs or buts about it. What you can be thinking of in the meantime, I mean, if you decide, okay, fine, we're going to leave it sit, and that's your decision. The only deadline they could give if you are going to do it is it would have to be done by June 1, obviously, of the general election year if you want it to take effect. But regardless, when we're looking in the future, the thing you remember you need to think about is the intent that you're going to stay with 3 districts, or 3 wards. Because if you're going to deviate from 3 wards, then we're opening up with the charter revisions. And that's a whole nother can of worms. So that's what you need to think about. If we're going to do that, we're looking at cracking open the charter. If we're going to leave it with the 3 wards, you're going to have to run it across the river. Heaven help me, given what I've heard going back and forth today already. But that was clear because I asked. I said, does it matter that there's a geographic, boundary, that we have the river running through it? Would that justify leaving the west side intact and having the east side just equalized, still be disproportionate to the west? And they said, no. You need to equalize them to as close as possible. So we're going to be running across the river, I think, unless you're going to crack open and run 3 wards on the east side. So that's for you to think about. I think after talking with Dan and getting no feedback whatsoever that yes, you are in big trouble here, this needs to be done, nobody said that. So that's my thought, having no direction from anybody except, yeah, nothing's clear here.
So we should wait till 2020 when we get the census and then work with it?
To me, that makes...
Because the county would have to do it then too.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so Toni, I know that Lori had mentioned this a while back, that if somebody, because basically, I've kind of been, I ran into somebody down in the cities who works actually for the Secretary of State. What?
Did you hurt him when you ran into him?
But anyway, basically it's up to the city officials to determine if this is necessary. One of the biggest things is that we have to make sure that everybody's voices are being heard.
Correct.
And the potential is there for us to be sued if we don't do this. And so if one citizen in this community feels that this is wrong, they're being represented wrong, there's too many people in maybe Don's district compared to Frank's, that we could then be going back to court.
Sure you could.
So just to let the council know that is kind of what I've heard. And like I said, I know we've discussed this a couple of years ago and had all the variations of the potentials of what we could do. But it's going to come down to the council making a decision. We don't have to wait for that 0, that ending in 0. We don't have to wait the 8 years out to for our census. That the council could do it now. So basically, what you're saying is kind of what I was told. But the potential is there if we were to get sued. So if somebody in that area decided to do that, it could happen.
Toni, how about all at-large like St. Cloud, wasn't that an example? Does that have to be a charter change?
Yeah, because the charter says we are a city of 3 wards. So certainly you can choose to do that, same way you could choose to go to 4 wards, but it's gonna require changing your charter to do that. But certainly you can do that.
So all the people that just came into the city from Belle Prairie, because of the border, they will be voting in
2nd ward.
2nd Ward. Okay.
Which would make it one of the largest wards in the city.
It
They
is-
still
it
would
is-
be
it is
getting
already.
representation, wouldn't they?
Is
Because
that
they're
part of
actually
proportion already?
voting.
Well, you certainly are, the whole point of having everything equal is the one person, one vote proposition, but we only do a census every 10 years, and I think the acknowledgement was that's all that really is financially feasible. You aren't gonna be doing a census, that's a massive undertaking every 2 years, and I think there's an acknowledgement that it's a kind of a balancing act. Yes, 10 years is a long span of time. Yes, there's gonna be a disproportionate voting system that may occur within that time span, but are they gonna order a census being done every 2 years to limit that? No. So I think there's some acknowledgement that within that 10-year span, there's gonna be some things happening causing a disproportionate vote that then get corrected at the census. So, you know, is it perfect? No. But is the US government gonna start ordering a census every year, every 2 years? No. They aren't. So that's for you to consider. If you think we don't care, we're gonna do that at this point in time, then you do it and you decide on your ward system and whatnot. If you don't, the system is structured that we look at it every 10 years. You know, knowing things are gonna happen in the meantime. Does that mean we won't get sued? No. Does it mean we'll lose if we get sued? No. You know, again, everybody I talked to, the league did throw up, oh my gosh, you have to change it, you're gonna get sued. Nobody threw up red flags that this was a huge imminent concern. If we get sued and we lose, then it was a huge imminent concern and we didn't address it, but nobody is flagging that for us right now. So all I can tell you is that that's the system right now. It's every 10 years you look at it. If you as a council don't say, we don't care, we don't want to risk it, we want to do it now, that's your decision. That's your decision. And then we have to look at, okay, now we're going to do it. Now how are we going to do it? And is it going to require us cracking open the charter? Or are we going to run it across the river?
So Don says Ward 2 is larger than the other wards, is that, I mean?
Well, because we had about half the people already in, Belle Prairie came in when we did it, so it already made the ward bigger.
You know, I don't know, Lori, if you ever called down to risk management on, you know, if we don't do it. Nobody at the league referred me to them. Nobody at the league said, well, if we have a concern about being sued, what are our limits? Is that an issue or not? Again, it was hot potato with nobody can give an answer. Other than the statute doesn't address this. This is what the statute addresses, is that you redistrict every 10 years, so.
And you're gonna make county board members run on times that they may not need to run.
Right, and that was what the Secretary of State office
sued
pointed
there.
out, that would be an issue. Didn't say, don't do it, they just said that that's gonna be an issue, that will need to be addressed then as well, so. I don't know if you wanna think about it a little further, I don't know if you want me to call back down to the league and try and talk to somebody else.
But, and do we know how proportionately, you know, how many people came in? Is it by votes or is it by people? I mean, is this counting kids?
It's
So population,
yeah.
and so if you third that, you know, knock it up in third, so how big would these areas have to be? And how close are we?
The Secretary of State had the numbers, I mean,
Okay.
exactly, pretty much about, you know, where we were at. But again.
The west side is small.
Huh?
I mean, the west
The west
side is
side is
small.
small,
You have
yeah.
to pull people from the east side to vote over on the west side,
Yeah.
which is gonna screw up a county board seat over there.